Braving the Wilderness, The Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone, by BrenA Ï Brown. Introduction. It's 8th grade. The gym door is plastered with a single sheet of paper, and on that paper is a list of numbers. Your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it in your throat. This isn't just any list. This list is everything. It's the key to a new high school, new friends, a new life. It's the list of girls who made the drill team, the Bear Cadets. For one young girl, a girl who felt like she'd spent her whole life as the new kid, this was her one shot at belonging. She'd practiced the routine, a jazzy number to the song Swanee, until she could do it in her sleep. She'd put herself on a brutal 2-week liquid diet, just like all the other girls, to make the way in. She pictured it all: the uniform, the high kicks under the stadium lights, the big sis who would decorate her locker. For a girl whose home was becoming a quiet war zone of her parents fighting, this team wasn't just a team. It was a refuge. It was a promise of a place to belong. She walked up to that gym door, her family waiting in the car. Her number was 62. Her eyes scanned the list: 59, 61, 64, 65. It wasn't there. Her number wasn't there. As she stood there, trying to force the number 62 to magically appear, another girl next to her started screaming with joy. Her dad jumped out of his car, ran up, and twirled her around, just like in the movies. The girl who didn't make it walked back to her family's station wagon, slid into the back seat, and braced herself for the long drive. And in that car, her parents said nothing. Not one word. The silence was louder than any scolding. It was the silence of shame. The silence that says, you didn't make it. You don't fit in. You don't belong. That story, that crushing moment of rejection, is where our journey begins today. It's a story from the life of a researcher named BrenA Ï Brown, a woman who has spent over 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, and shame. Her work has reached millions, with multiple #1 best-selling books and a TED Talk that's one of the most watched in the world. And in her book, Braving the Wilderness, she tackles one of the most primal human needs we all share: the deep, aching need to belong. What if I told you that everything you think you know about belonging is wrong? That fitting in is actually the opposite of belonging? And that the path to finding where you truly belong requires you to have the courage to stand completely and utterly alone? That's the bold promise of this book. By the end of our time together, you'll understand the secret to what BrenA Ï Brown calls true belonging: a state of being so grounded in who you are that you belong everywhere and nowhere, all at once. It's a journey into the wild, and it starts right now. Book summary. We all know that feeling, don't we? That deep, gut-level need to be a part of something. To have a crew, a tribe, a place where people get you. It's wired into our DNA. From our earliest days, our survival depended on being part of a group. Being cast out meant certain death. So we learn, very early on, how to fit in. BrenA Ï Brown knows this better than anyone. That painful memory of the drill team tryouts wasn't just a one-time thing. It was a theme in her life. She was the new kid who moved from New Orleans to Houston to Washington, D.C. and back again. She was the Episcopalian in the Catholic school. She even had the name Cassandra BrenA Ï Brown, which led to all sorts of confusing assumptions in the racially charged South of the 1970s. So she became a master of fitting in. A chameleon. She studied people, learning their patterns, figuring out what they wanted to hear and how they wanted her to act. She could morph into whatever the situation required. And in the process, she became a stranger to herself. She lost track of who she was, what she liked, and what she believed in. All in the desperate search for a place to belong. This is a trap so many of us fall into. We think belonging is something we get from other people. We think we have to earn it by being cool enough, smart enough, or agreeable enough. We seek approval, we hustle for acceptance, and we file down the interesting, quirky edges of our personality to fit into the smooth, round hole of the group. But Brene discovered something profound through her research. Fitting in is a barrier to belonging. Think about it. When you're fitting in, you're not showing people your real, authentic self. You're showing them a carefully curated, edited version of you. True belonging, on the other hand, only happens when you present your authentic, imperfect self to the world. It's the feeling of being seen and accepted for who you truly are. And that means your sense of belonging can never be greater than your level of self-acceptance. For years, Brene wrestled with this. She found her way, slowly. She got sober. She met and married her husband, Steve, a man who saw the real her and loved her for it. She became a researcher, and even then, she felt like an outsider. Her professors told her not to study messy topics like shame and vulnerability. They told her a qualitative dissertation wasn't the way to go. They told her she couldn't be a serious academic and write books for everyday people. At every turn, she was told to fit into the box of what a researcher should be. And at every turn, she chose not to. It was terrifying. It kept her in a state of constant anxiety. But she knew, deep down, that the price of fitting in, of silencing her own voice and curiosity, was too high. It would have cost her everything. This brings us to the central paradox of the book, a quote from the great poet Maya Angelou that haunted BrenA Ï Brown for over 20 years. In a 1973 interview, Drive, Angelou said, "You are only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place, no place at all. The price is high. The reward is great." When Brene first heard this, she thought it was just wrong. Belong nowhere? That sounded like a nightmare. It sounded like the definition of loneliness. It was the very thing she had spent her life running from. How could this wise woman, her hero, say something so fundamentally opposed to what she believed? It took 2 decades, a career studying human connection, and one life-changing conversation for her to finally understand. The moment of clarity came after she had achieved incredible success. She'd been on Oprah, she'd met Maya Angelou in person, and she was speaking to huge audiences. But she still felt like an outsider, constantly being asked to change who she was to fit the context. Don't cuss here, don't mention your faith there, wear business attire. She was tired of it. She resolved to just be herself, even if it meant she didn't fit into any single group. One night, she confessed to her husband, "Steve, I don't belong anywhere. I belong no place. I've got no crew." And Steve, in his quiet wisdom, said something that changed everything. He told her that while she might be an outlier, she was the highest-rated speaker at a recent conference, showing up in her jeans and clogs. He said, "You will always belong anywhere you show up as yourself and talk about your work in a real way." And that was it. The light bulb went on. She ran to her computer and looked up the full Maya Angelou interview. She found the part she'd never seen before. The interviewer asked, "Do you belong to anyone?" And Maya Angelou replied, "More and more. I mean, I belong to myself. I'm very proud of that. I belong to myself." That was the key. True belonging isn't something you find on the outside. It's not something you negotiate with a group of people. It's a spiritual practice. It's the practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world. And when you do that, you find sacredness both in being a part of something and in standing alone. This is what Brene calls braving the wilderness. The wilderness is a metaphor for those times when we have to stand alone. When we have to say what we believe, even if it means facing criticism, rejection, and fear. It's an untamed, unpredictable place of solitude and searching. It's a place that is as beautiful as it is dangerous. But here's the secret: the wilderness is the only place where true belonging can happen. Because true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. This sounds good in theory, but we're living in a world that makes it incredibly difficult. We're in what Brene calls a spiritual crisis of disconnection. We've sorted ourselves into ideological bunkers. We live in a giant feedback loop, only listening to people who already agree with us. We scroll through social media and see a world of us versus them. We're more politically and socially segregated than ever before. And you'd think, with all this sorting, that we'd feel more connected to our in-groups, but the data shows the exact opposite. As our sorting has increased, so has our loneliness. Today, more than 40% of adults in America report feeling lonely. And loneliness is a killer. One major study found that living with loneliness increases our odds of dying early by 45%. That's more dangerous than obesity or excessive drinking. Why? Because as a social species, we are wired for connection. Loneliness is a biological warning sign, just like hunger or thirst. It's our body telling us that we need meaningful social interaction to survive. So why are we so sorted, yet so lonely? BrenA argues that the primary driver is fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of getting hurt, fear of conflict, fear of not measuring up. Fear drives us into our bunkers, where we think we'll be safe. But those ideological bunkers protect us from everything except the one thing that hurts the most: loneliness and disconnection. So how do we break out? How do we find our way back to ourselves and to each other? Brene's research uncovered 4 practices of true belonging. These are not easy steps. They are paradoxical and challenging. They are the skills we need to brave the wilderness. The first practice is, people are hard to hate close up. Move in. It's so easy to hate a group of strangers. We see a label: Democrat, Republican, feminist, evangelical, and we fill in the blanks with stereotypes and assumptions. But when we zoom in on our actual lives, the picture gets complicated. Your best friend at work who helped you through a family crisis? She's a Democrat. Your son-in-law who is the most amazing father to your grandkids? He's a Republican. The teacher who changed your life? She's pro-life. What we experience close up is real. The rhetoric we hear from far away is often designed to make us afraid and angry. Because anger is easier than pain. As the writer James Baldwin said, I imagine one of the reasons people cling to their hates so stubbornly is because they sense, once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with pain. Moving in means getting closer to people, even people we disagree with. It means choosing curiosity over defensiveness. But it doesn't mean we tolerate everything. There is a line. That line is dehumanization. Dehumanization is the process of seeing others as less than human. It starts with language, calling people animals, insects, or monsters. It's what allows us to justify cruelty. When we hear dehumanizing language, whether it's aimed at politicians we dislike or groups we fear, we must reject it. Because when we engage in it, we diminish our own humanity. True belonging requires us to hold people accountable for their actions without stripping them of their humanity. The second practice is, speak truth to bullshit. Be civil. There's a difference between lying and bullshitting. A liar knows the truth and is actively trying to hide it. A bullshitter, on the other hand, doesn't care about the truth at all. They are just trying to persuade you, to get you on their side. One of the most common forms of bullshit is the false dichotomy. You're either with us, or you're against us. This is a tactic used to shut down debate and force people to pick a side. It preys on our fear of being cast out. Brene shares a powerful story about this. She grew up in a hunting family in Texas. Gun safety and respect for the animal were non-negotiable rules. As she got older, she watched the gun debate become more and more polarized. One day, at an event, she mentioned she was teaching her son to shoot skeet. A woman confronted her, saying, "I'm very surprised to hear that you're a gun lover. You don't strike me as the NRA type." Brene was immediately put into a false with us or against us box. She could have easily pandered to the group and denounced her family's traditions to fit in. Or she could have gotten angry and defensive. Instead, she chose the wilderness. She calmly explained that she supports responsible gun ownership and common-sense gun laws, like background checks and waiting periods. She supports both. The woman got angry and spit out, "You either support guns or you don't." Brene refused to accept the terms of the argument. She said, "I'm not going to participate in a debate where this issue is reduced to you either support guns or you don't. It's too important." She didn't betray herself. She stood in her integrity, alone. It wasn't comfortable. But she belonged to herself. That is speaking truth to bullshit. And doing it with respect, without attacking the other person, is the definition of civility. The third practice is, hold hands. With strangers. If we are going to maintain our belief in our shared humanity, we need to witness it. We have to experience moments of connection that cut through our differences. Brene found that the people with the strongest sense of true belonging actively seek out moments of collective joy and collective pain. Think about being in a stadium with 95,000 strangers, all singing the same anthem before a soccer match, scarves held high, tears in their eyes. Or being in a movie theater when a beloved character dies, and looking around to see 200 strangers, all with their hands in the air, pointing imaginary wands to the sky in a gesture of solidarity. Or being at a concert, screaming the lyrics to a song from your youth, surrounded by thousands of people who share that same memory. These moments are what the sociologist Emile Durkheim called collective effervescence. It's a sensation of sacredness that happens when we are part of something bigger than ourselves. It reminds us that, beneath our political labels and ideological differences, we are inextricably connected. The same is true for moments of collective pain. Attending a funeral, gathering for a vigil after a tragedy, or simply crying with friends, these moments remind us that we are not alone in our grief. But there's a counterfeit version of this, common enemy intimacy. This is the cheap, easy connection we feel when we bond with someone over hating the same people. It feels good in the moment, but it's not real connection. It's just another form of us versus them. True collective joy and pain are inclusive, they don't come at the expense of others. And this brings us to the final, and perhaps most important, practice. It's the one that ties everything together. Strong back. Soft front. Wild heart. This is the posture we need to brave the wilderness. A strong back is about having a spine. It's about being grounded in our values and having the courage to hold our boundaries. It's about learning to say no and letting go of the need to please everyone. It's about being accountable for our mistakes instead of blaming others. A strong back is forged in the practice of integrity. A soft front is about staying open and vulnerable. It's about choosing love and connection over armor and defensiveness. When we're hurt, our instinct is to build walls, to get a thick skin. But an armored front doesn't just keep the bad stuff out, it keeps the good stuff out too. Love, joy, intimacy, all of these require a soft front. It's not weakness, it's the ultimate display of courage. And when you combine a strong back and a soft front, you cultivate a wild heart. A wild heart is the mark of someone who has braved the wilderness and been transformed by it. A wild heart can hold the paradoxes of life. It can be both tough and tender, brave and afraid, all at the same time. It can fight for justice and peace in the world, while also cultivating moments of personal joy without guilt. A wild heart understands that you can be grateful for what you have, while still acknowledging the pain of others. And most of all, a wild heart has learned the most important lesson of all, a practice that can change your life starting today. Stop walking through the world looking for confirmation that you don't belong. Because you will always find it. If you scour people's faces for evidence that you're not smart enough, not cool enough, not good enough, you will find it. True belonging is not something we negotiate with the world. The truth about who we are lives in our hearts. Our job is to protect that wild heart against constant evaluation, especially our own. At the end of her journey, BrenA Brown finally understood what Maya Angelou meant. To belong nowhere and everywhere is to be so rooted in your own heart, so at home in your own skin, that your belonging is not contingent on any person, place, or group. You carry it with you. You are free. The price is high. It requires you to be vulnerable, to get uncomfortable, to stand alone. But the reward is great. It is the reward of a life lived in integrity, courage, and connection. It's the freedom that comes when you can stand in the middle of the wilderness, look around, and say with every fiber of your being, I am the wilderness. Commentary. As I reflect on braving the wilderness, I can't help but feel how incredibly timely and necessary this book is for the world we live in right now. We are swimming in a sea of division. The easiest thing in the world is to pick a side, retreat into our bunker, and yell at the other side. This book is a courageous and compassionate call to do the opposite. It's a call to step out of the bunker and into the messy, uncomfortable, and beautiful space in between. What I find most powerful about BrenA Brown's work is that it's not just based on opinion or feel-good platitudes. It's grounded in 2 decades of rigorous research on real human experiences. When she talks about the 4 practices of true belonging, she's not just guessing. She's sharing a map that has been drawn from the stories of people who have successfully navigated this difficult terrain. The central idea, that true belonging begins with belonging to yourself, is a radical act in a culture that constantly tells us our worth is determined by external validation. It's a quiet revolution of the self. And the image of strong back, soft front, wild heart is one of the most useful and memorable frameworks for living a courageous life that I've ever come across. It's a mantra you can carry with you into a difficult conversation, a nerve-wracking presentation, or a family holiday dinner. So, how can you start putting this into practice right now? You don't have to do it all at once. Start small. First, try moving in. The next time you feel that flash of anger or judgment towards someone with a different political view, get curious instead. Ask them a genuine question. Help me understand why this is so important to you. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to listen long enough to see their humanity. Second, practice having a strong back and a soft front in one small moment. Maybe it's setting a boundary with a friend who is always late, doing it clearly but kindly. Or maybe it's choosing not to get defensive when you receive critical feedback, and instead, just saying thank you, I'll think about that. And finally, hold hands with strangers. Make a point to go to something that creates collective joy. Go to a concert, a sporting event, a community festival, or even just a packed movie on opening night. Put your phone away. Look around. Feel the energy of the crowd. Let it remind you that, for all our differences, we are far more connected than we are divided. This journey isn't easy. Braving the wilderness means you will get scraped up. You will feel lonely at times. But what this book promises is that on the other side of that fear is a sense of freedom and wholeness that fitting in could never offer. It's the peace that comes from knowing that no matter where you are at home in your own heart. That was a summary of Braving the Wilderness by BrenA Brown. We've touched on the big ideas today, but honestly, A summary can only ever be a map. The real adventure happens when you walk the path yourself. The true power of this book is in the stories, the nuance, and the way Brene's words can meet you exactly where you are. This summary is your starting point, a way to see if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've discussed has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning concepts, it's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see yourself and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.